I'm pissed, okay? So go ahead, get it out there. This stuff is hard. And you gotta stay together if you got the guts, and you don't find the first door and run out of it.
The 2020 NBA Finals has given us a great matchup between two of the biggest destinations in the league, Los Angeles and Miami. Though both of these cities are no stranger to the glitz and glamour, these teams were built in two very different fashions. The Lakers have two superstars in LeBron James and Anthony Davis, while the Heat, though no stranger to stardom, are built and play much differently than the last team that made the finals 6 years ago. While the odds makers heavily favor the Lakers in the series, I think it's going to be a competitive and tactical bloodbath regardless of how many games it goes. To the point that I wouldn't be surprised if the point differential is less than 5 to 8 in each game. The Lakers won both matchups in the regular season, however both teams are now much different than they were before, and it's the playoffs, so rotations have been drastically shortened. Let's take a closer look at the biggest pieces of this series, starting with Miami's defense against LeBron James. Also, forgive me if I forget a major component to this series. I try to be as thorough as possible, but it's a quick turnaround to make a video as intricate as this is in just a few hours. I think stopping LeBron James is both the biggest story and focus of this series. Despite playing some really good teams throughout the playoffs, LeBron hasn't played a team with the wing personnel that Miami has. Jimmy Butler, Andre Iguodala, and Jay Crowder have spent about as much time guarding LeBron as you can. None of them are on the level of a San Antonio Kawhi Leonard, and Iguodala is far past his prime, but they'll definitely make it tough. I bet Jay Crowder gets a start on LeBron, but I know Iguodala, Butler, and even Adebayo will have the opportunity to make him work throughout the series. If you've ever watched a LeBron-led team, you know they're going to hunt and seek out your worst defenders until you croak. With that being said, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, and Goran Dragic are going to be in for a treat this series. While they aren't good defenders, they are vital pieces to the success of the Heat offense, so they're going to be out there regardless. For the Heat, I bet they hedge hard, blitz, or even double on occasion when he tries to get a switch. In their two matchups this season, LeBron averaged 26.5 points a game, 6.5 rebounds, and 9 assists, with 5.5 turnovers on 51% from the field and 53% from three. Again, the teams are very different, but you still wouldn't have the most confidence if you're Miami. Manning up LeBron, cutting off his driving lanes, forcing him to take jumpers, and keeping him off the line are the musts to slowing him down. He's not Giannis and can create ample offense from a variety of places on the court, but these are the things you must do to be successful. The book is written on LeBron, and I'm not saying anything profound. There's just not a whole lot you can do to stop him. When Rondo was on the floor, look for Miami to explore doubles. Outside of that, I wouldn't expect Spoelstra to try that because he knows that's a death sentence better than almost anybody. The other big defensive piece they can throw at this Lakers team is that zone. There's been a lot of talk about this zone, which has worked well up until this point, but I'm not sure it will against this LeBron-led Lakers team. They have LeBron, who can defeat a zone by himself, and AD, who was always a matchup nightmare. Most of the time when they ran zone against the Lakers in the regular season, it was when LeBron left the floor, but LeBron is playing 40 plus minutes in the finals, guarantee it. You put LeBron in the middle of the zone, you're asking to get destroyed. From the middle, he has the option to go high-low with the bigs, can read the bottom side guys and kick out the shooters in the corners. And then he's a dribble or two away from being at the basket or drawing fouls and getting to the free throw line. If you put AD in the middle, you've got one of the league's best mid-range shooters getting open looks or being able to go one-on-one with Bam with options based on who else is out there. Even though Bam is an all-world defender, that's a major hole in that scheme. And that's just if they were to decide to attack it from the middle. If LA was to take something from Boston and screen one of those topside guys, Miami is immediately at a disadvantage as LeBron will be headed downhill with a clear vision of the floor, and they'll likely help up from the bigs, help from the opposite topside guy, or help from the corners, likely leaving shooters. These are the reasons I would be shocked if Miami goes zone as much as they did against a Boston team who doesn't really have anybody who can read the floor half as good as LeBron, nor do they have the right personnel to make it happen. And even then, Boston started to beat the zone with regularity as the series went on. And I say all of this without even mentioning that Denver ran some zone last series and got cooked. A lot of that has to do with personnel, which is why I didn't lead with it. But if Miami wants to see how and where they'll be attacked in a zone, the blueprint is out there. Now it's easy to focus on LeBron because whether he wins or loses, people will only recite his finals record or saved by Ray Allen, saved by Kyrie, and whatnot. But this series also features a matchup between two of the league's most versatile bigs, especially defensively, in Bam Adebayo and Anthony Davis. In their two matchups this season, Anthony Davis absolutely dominated Bam in the Heat, averaging nearly 30 and 9 on almost 60, 45, 85 shooting splits, and throwing in 3 blocks as well. Can Bam contain Anthony Davis is one of the biggest, if not the biggest question of the series. You could make an argument that AD has been the best player on the Lakers during the postseason. While Bam is a good offensive player, he's not a go-to scorer yet, and AD's defensive prowess will surely be effective against him in their pick and rolls and DHOs that they love to run. Another huge part of the series is going to come down to the other Lakers. They've consistently proven that they can be suffocating defensively with Caruso, KCP, Green, and even Kyle Kuzma making huge contributions on that end and neutralizing the likes of Murray, McCollum, Lillard, and Westbrook. But they're going to have to be able to make shots, and because of the attention LeBron and AD will have on them, they're going to get plenty of them. A lot of KCP and Danny Green's looks come from the corner or on the wing from kickouts and swings after LeBron and AD draw the defense. While he hasn't been necessarily good, Danny Green is still shooting 36% from 3 in the playoffs and is serviceable compared to his 2019 run with the Raptors when he shot just 33%. KCP on the other hand is shooting 42% from 3 in the playoffs, including 44% in the 5-game series against the Nuggets. As a team, in the Lakers' 3 playoff losses, they shot a combined 22 for 96 from 3, which is 23%. It's more than safe to say that the 3 has been a major deciding factor to the Lakers' success this entire season. Now to Kyle Kuzma. Kuzma hasn't been great, but if there was any time to get it going, it's now. He's shooting 31% from 3 in these playoffs, but he's pitching in nearly 11 points overall, and it's been enough to this point. If the Heat go zone for an extended period, Kuzma should be salivating. Even if they don't go zone and just shade LeBron and AD, his ability to cut off the ball and somewhat create a shot on his own will be highly needed and vital to LA's success. Rondo is one of the weirdest players to watch in the regular season. From night to night, he can look like it's 2012 again, or he can look like he's back in Dallas throwing games. So far in this postseason, playoff Rondo has been real. He's averaging 9 points, 7 assists, and nearly 2 steals, playing the irritant role on opposing guards on defense. Oh, and he's shooting 45% from 3, in case you thought he'd be doing anything less. His performance is going to be huge in this series. Now to Miami's bench players. The bench players for Miami are going to be key. If Tyler Hero doesn't turn into Luka, they lose Game 4 against the Celtics, and it's a completely different series. Which is to say, guys like Hero, Crowder, Robinson, and Olynyk, if he gets minutes, are going to be huge in terms of putting up points and generating offense. Dragic has been consistently good, and it's imperative that he keeps it up, as Butler and Bam aren't guys who you would bet on getting you 30 points a night. They're good for 20 to 25, but it's imperative that the role guys continue shooting lights out because the Lakers have easier ways of generating offense, and they have 2 people who can get 40 on any given night. Dragic has been a star, putting up 21 points, 4 rebounds, and nearly 5 assists a night, playing at that all-star level we saw from him a few years ago. He's as crafty as they get, and honestly, I think he might be the Heat's second most important player overall, and probably their most important player on offense. In 2 out of 3 of Miami's losses, Dragic was simply bad. Game 3 against Boston, he was 2 for 10 with 5 turnovers and 4 fouls. In Game 4 against Milwaukee, Dragic was 5 for 17 with 4 fouls, including 1 for 9 from 3. He plays any better in that game, and the Bucks get swept. He's the most consistent and versatile offensive creator they have, and will need to maintain that level of play in these finals. Now, what Tyler Hero was doing as a rookie is absolutely ridiculous. Averaging about 17, 5, and 4 over these playoffs doesn't exactly jump out at you, but he's doing a tremendous job of playing his role and being that bucket getter Miami needs. I feel like Hero is always 2 consecutive makes away from giving you 25, and again, if Miami didn't have this consistent offensive production from this 20-year-old, it will be a much different playoff story. Now, I love how Duncan Robinson just became one of the greatest shooters ever out of nowhere. He's averaging 11 points a game on 40% from 3, and more importantly, he's someone you have to game plan for. If he's open, he's absolutely knocking it down. Though he's performed well up until this point, he's somebody I could see succumbing to the pressure of the finals, but this is in the bubble, so it may just feel like a regular game to him. More than anything, if he's able to stay solid on defense and stay out of foul trouble, he'll be able to make an impact just by being on the court. Jay Crowder has been huge during this Heat run. From the beginning of the playoffs to Game 1 against Boston, Crowder was shooting nearly 42% from 3 and averaging 14 points and 6 rebounds a game. If you've ever cheered for Jay Crowder, or at least watched him, you know that inconsistency is just a part of who he is. In the last 5 games of that Boston series, Crowder regressed in a huge way, shooting 18% from 3 and averaging just 9.5 points a game. While most of his impact will be felt on what is yet another attempt to slow down LeBron, he must be at least solid offensively. If he shoots 18% from 3 during the finals, I doubt the Heat ended up winning. Another couple things to watch during this series are the team's respective performances in the third quarters and their abilities to finish possessions and grab rebounds. In the playoffs, the Lakers have come out strong in the third quarter, winning by an average margin of 5.9 points. However, Miami has consistently come out sluggish, losing third quarters by an average of 3.4 points. In addition, Miami lost a league-leading 18 games this season in which they were up by 10 points or more in the game, one of them coming against the Lakers themselves. Lastly, the Lakers' ability to control the glass has created huge issues for their opponents this postseason. The size of their front court with Howard, Davis, McGee, and LeBron has typically created a sizable advantage on the glass, especially offensively, where they average 0.23 points per miss, which is far and above the league average of 0.16. Spoelstra's decision to play Bam as center or roll out guys like Myers Leonard, Kelly Olynyk, and Derrick Jones will be huge in this series. If they're going to switch everything, it could hurt them on the perimeter and on the offensive glass as well. Bam is likely going to spend the overwhelming majority of his time on AD, leaving Crowder or Butler to guard Dwight or JaVale if they were to keep their lineup they've been using throughout the playoffs. However, I'm certain they'll at least start Myers Leonard or Olynyk, both of which have played minimal minutes and looked shaky when they were out there. Matching up with Dwight and JaVale is going to be a major part of the game to watch. Ultimately, I think the 2 stars will be too much to handle for the Heat, and I've got the Lakers winning in 6 hard-fought games, bringing LeBron his 4th title and a victory over the team that he won his first with. And LA gets their 17th title, tying the Boston Celtics for the most ever. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you guys getting me to 10,000 subscribers, and we've got more great basketball content on the way. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and let me know in the comments who you think is going to win the series and in how many games. It's Keandre from Intellect, and I'm out.